15 minutes or so, my goal is to share my adventures with certifications and ultimately leave with some insights and recommendations as you start your own journey. My name is Sheila Vida, and I am a principal customer success specialist at Cisco, working mainly on the Duo security product set. I do have 22 years of experience professionally in various industries and technologies. So I started my career in quality assurance and testing of notebook laptops. And I worked with the video delivery industry for a substantial amount of time. I also dabbled in project management for a bit, doing application testing. But one thing which was consistent throughout my experience is it's always been geared towards technical customer-facing roles. And that trend continued when I joined Cisco 4 years ago, this time in the new industry of cybersecurity. I do a role which is called customer solutions engineering. And what that entails is on the back end, I am doing technical configurations and troubleshooting of our solution set for us to be able to advise our customers from our book of business on how to optimize their deployment of our product to support their cybersecurity programs. Really cool job. I love what I do. Except that 4 years ago, when I joined, I had zero cloud and security experience, which was a pretty major gap. And that's when I utilized the power of certifications in my current role. Whether 7 certifications is too little or too much is beside the point, because what I wanted to highlight is there is intentionality in taking certifications that would allow you to optimize this tool at your disposal. The screen that I'm sharing right now are the 7 certifications that I got in the past 4 years, and it's ordered with when I took them. I also added some information around how each one of them costs, not just the monetary value of how much the exam cost is, but also how much time I allotted to prepare for each one of them. And there is a trend that I would like to highlight with this information, knowing that the gap for me was the industry knowledge. I started with the baseline type of certifications. And then as I was doing my role and understanding the use cases for my customer, it eventually transitioned to getting deeper dives on how I could support the different personas that I was working with doing my role. With my customer solutions engineering role, I work from the analysts to the engineers to the administrators, all the way to the CISOs and CIOs. So the last couple of certifications which I took were the ones which I envisioned would empower me to get thinking the same way that they do. So clearly, I am a yay for certifications because I have utilized them. And I will highlight some of the things which certifications served for me. The first one is it fast-tracked for me, getting an overview of the industry that I am now part of. And this not just involves the jargons and the concepts, but also the personas and the regulations and the technical things that I should start focusing on as I navigate my conversation with the customers. And this was also visible on my certification sort of like flow. But once I have identified that there is a possibility to double click on particular certification paths, it enables me to focus my efforts and utilize a specific certification to serve that purpose. On that list, there is this Azure Security Engineer Associate certification, which I took. And that particular one involves a lot of labbing and truly knowing what settings to configure in Azure to set up IAM And that was something which was very helpful as I walk my customers through how to do that in their environment. I mentioned about the jargons when I was doing the studying for Security Plus. It got me speaking the language sooner. Before I joined, actually the first month that I joined Cisco, I thought that threat actors is just a really dramatic way of naming the villains in a cybersecurity dynamic, but apparently it was an industry term. So learning the overview of the industry through my certification studying was something which certifications helped me with. It also enabled me to have continuous and flexible learning. Depending on this one is around the cloud technology space, depending on what your vendor of choice is, they actually do have this paths that you can follow, sort of like giving you a guide on how what are the sequence of learnings that you could explore if you wanted to pursue a particular path. And that pathway, the beauty of the concept of recertification was something which was something which was I utilized to be able to have that extra push to continue keeping my certifications active. I also mentioned flexible learning there. Everyone's study style is different. Mine is I really need to have the physical books and read them and highlight them and scribble in my notebook. I was also watching the like learning videos for the specific certification that I am doing after I have read the books, and having the ability to do those at my own time is something which I appreciated. Certifications helped with professional perception and career progression on my case. I have always been a subscriber of transparency with both my customers and my peers with regards to how much I know or do not know about just like the industry in general when I joined. And when I got, and just to highlight the specific certification, when I got my CISSP, whether real or perceived, my customers actually appreciated and celebrated with me when I got it, because even though there is that gap of I do not know the security and here I am advising you on what to do best, they appreciated the effort that I was taking the time to be at that same level to be able to speak with them in a language that they speak. Career progression, I mentioned that I am now holding a principal role. I actually started, understandably, with a non-senior role, given the industry gap. But throughout the 4 years that I've been with the company, I was able to help bridge that by augmenting my learnings through certification with my day-to-day job and my learnings from my peers and customers. Lastly, I'm not gonna lie, every time I get the chance to update a badge in LinkedIn, it is something that I am quite proud of, because for me, it is a tangible manifestation of an effort that I did for a particular period of time, having accomplished a goal that I set for myself. And that feeling of showing up and delivering for yourself is something which was gave me the warm and fuzzies. So, we should all drop everything and start taking certifications? Nah, not really. There are options and there are times where certification are not fit. First of all, it incurs cost. The table that I showed earlier was even just for the certifications that I took. And depending on which ones you take, the dollar value increases along with the effort that is required for you to prepare for them. And there is intentionality attached with doing these certifications. Again, on my case, I was doing it after hours and I had to write myself a strategy document. So I make sure that I show up for my certifications and my prep for it, because it really takes time. And if there are other avenues which could expedite the learning process for you, then you could explore those, and not have to deal with the effort required for studying for certifications. Technology is constantly evolving, goes without saying. The configuration pages that you might have learned preparing for a particular certification might not be there in 1 or 2 years, or the feature itself might have been rebranded to something else. Relying on certifications to confirm that you know something is definitely not enough, as you need to always refresh it to make sure that you are going with the updates that are happening with the industry that you're part of. There is a tendency for some certifications to focus on the conceptual versus practical, and probably that's design, right? For some of the, let's say, the foundational cloud security concepts, it's more of like letting you know what the elements are. So it's, like a lot of words and concepts, but learning it at the moment as words and not having to do it constantly gets in the way of retaining the things that you learn studying for your certification. This will come up again towards my future slides, but there is something that has to be said with the extra effort that you need to do to keep your certifications to serve you beyond passing them. Lastly, there are other learning options available, and certification, or the dynamic of utilizing that set a goal, set a date, get the badge, might not work for you, and that is okay. It's just one of these things where it's a matter of choice, what serves you better on a particular case. So certifications, yay or nay? I will summarize it in 3 things. First of all, value. Will you get a good enough value with the time and effort that you are going to be spending to get a particular certification? As what I've shared on my story, the value for me was that extra effort that I took in the beginning of my career with my current role. Fast tracking my industry knowledge was the value that I got out of taking those certifications. Interest. I am a strong advocate of doing doing things that you enjoy and serve a particular purpose for you. If you can do it with, like, you're happy doing it, that's amazing. Sometimes that interest might be imposed by like a company requirement or whatnot. It that serves that too. Just make sure that you do have an understanding that you know why you are taking this extra effort to prepare for this particular exam. Lastly, as I have mentioned, there are options. This certification might serve its purpose for a particular person at a particular point in time, but other times that might not be the case. And it is up to the circumstance that you have whether certifications is the best option for you or not. The way I look at it, is certifications are tools, and it is something that is up to you whether you use it or not. It does not and will never replace practical experience. If anything, for me, I utilized it to sort of like get a glimpse or a view of what that practical experience looks like for my customers, so I would be able to support them effectively. Everyone's journey is different. It's a recurring theme throughout my presentation. We all do have options. We do all have specific circumstances which serve us, and certifications might be one of those options for you. So if, let's say, after this talk or in your current state right now, certifications might be the path that you are following, I do want to share some information around how you could optimize them. And if cybersecurity is a field that you are interested in exploring, I also want to share 2 of the certifications which will allow you to get a lay of the land. Number one, to optimize your certifications, explore opportunities where your company can support you. At Cisco, we do have this learning budget, which is a fixed amount, and I work with my leader every year to be able to make sure that I use that to fund the certifications that I am taking. Keep your certifications active with practical applications and continuing professional education. I referenced recertification earlier, and that is sort of like a subtle approach. CPEs are one way for you to keep your certifications. And at the same time, it kind of like pushes you to keep your certification active beyond passing them. Lastly, support others. I was a recipient of this support when I took my CISSP, where one of my colleagues shared their strategy and I linked up with them. And I am happy to provide a similar support for those who are starting to explore the certification journey. And lastly, I would like to end with these two cybersecurity certifications, which are out there. The first one is, I could not recommend this enough. I chatted with my Uber driver once who wants to do a career change, and I told him, if you wanted to explore cybersecurity, this is something which is free, and they provide even the free training, and the exam cost is free, and the link is there. CompTIA Security Plus is something which personally for me was what was helpful to get a general overview of cybersecurity, and I highly recommend that for folks as well. And thank you. That is all I have. This is my LinkedIn, and if you want to connect after this session, I would love for us to have a chat. I will stop sharing now so I could read if there are questions on the chat. All right, let me just see. And I believe I heard from one of the presentations, access to slides. So I will share the slides that I presented today in case folks are interested with some of the links that I shared. I don't see any particular question here. But again, beyond, okay, there we go. Would you recommend earning certificates as a way to become more visible in the job market? Thank you for the question, Melissa. This is actually along that line of having people talk in the same language. I mean, we know our experience, we know our awesome, but admittedly, if we're talking to people for the first time, they don't know that. So personally, for me, I agree that certificates is one of those things that, with them not knowing the extent of your experience yet, that is something that you can use to demonstrate your viability in the job market. Thank you, Sheila. I've noticed more and more JDs requiring a cert, especially CISSP. Josephine, I apologize. I am not familiar what JD stands for. Oh, job description, sorry. I thought it's the law, JD. Do you notice this trend? I am regularly monitoring just like, like the job trends out there. I do see the certifications getting called out, but one thing which I noticed though is it's sort of like a nice to have there. So I would argue that even though it's in the job description, and I'm pretty sure Girl Geek has covered this topic in one way or another, even though the job description says that it's there, we could still try for it. But that's one thing that I have at least seen people call out on the nice to have column. So that's my view on that one. What do you do to keep up with changes in the industry? Are you reading any particular outlets? Luckily for the role that I do, I work with customers day in, day out with actual problems and concerns that they do have. So for me, that is one thing that allows me to see what the industry changes are. I also, and this is the CPE angle that I shared, I also am exploring what webinars or seminars are out there. So I get the CPE credits to retain my CISSP certification. So that's another avenue that I explore. I also subscribe to a couple of industry newsletters, sometimes too much, just to see what's out there. And then if something is interesting for me, I will follow through on it. All right. My current role does not have interface. Do you think it's possible to use certs to get started in cyber as a career transition? 1000%. If and on the slides that I shared, that ISC2 certification for CC is actually pretty general and pretty basic, for lack of a better term. So for me, taking those, that particular certification is something which will actually you will discover that we are technically doing cybersecurity, every one of us, each day, every day. So I think having that exposure to how it truly is part of our lives every day is something that could help open that door for you. Any tips from software developer to customer success or solutions engineering role? Unfortunately, I do not have a software development background, but just to give a perspective on the other side of the house, with a customer success role, it's a combination of, the technical deep dives along with the ability to, work with the customers to communicate those technical conversations. So for me, the recommendation would be explore avenues in your organization which would allow you to develop that communication, bridging the gap skill from a technical centric role to something which is more public facing. I do have colleagues in my organization who did that transition, and we had chats around how to navigate that. uh, the ability to present and communicate is something that can be explored in any role, I would argue. So I think you can start with that. Great points. What helped you entering the team role without experience in security? I'm not gonna lie, like luck was one one part of it, but also based on the experience that I shared, I know my strength with a technical customer facing role. And during my interview, that's what I capitalized on. I'm like, I know that I don't have cybersecurity. I know that, but I do have this customer success, customer facing role in the majority of my career. And that is, an experience that is not easily available. But also, and that's why I said luck, when I applied for the role that I am now currently part of, there was an opportunity to learn on the job. And sometimes that is not available for folks. It luckily was there for me. And my first couple of months were spent training with my teammates and an amazing learning and development team that we do have to get me up to speed with the product while I was doing the certification hustle on the side. So I get to know the industry. Do you think there would be value in getting certificates while in the process of undergraduate degree? The advice that I would give here is see if there is an overlap with what, like the degree that you're currently taking with the certifications, because the purpose for them might serve differently. But if let's say there's no overlap, I would always argue that there is value in taking extra effort in an additional field if that is something which aligns with your goals. And obviously, that's when the time management and prioritization kicks in. But I will always say yes to learning more. All right. I think I captured all the questions. Do companies prefer professional certifications over degrees? I could not answer that. It depends on the organization. That's totally dependent on the company. But having the option is always good. I think that's my time because Angie put on her camera. But thank
Yeah,
you everyone for joining. And again, open to share my strategy document with CISSP and everything else after this call. Thank you for spending the past 20 minutes with me.
thank you for answering everyone's questions. I know we're all like, how do we break into this field? If you share your slides, I'm sure people will be clicking on those links. I took a few screenshots. I'm like, I want to take these certifications. My future career in cybersecurity awaits. So thank you so much.
See you there.